On the distant planet of Cindera, there was a creature like no other. Her name was Varys. She was known throughout the galaxy for her beauty, a beauty that could draw any man or woman to her, making them forget their own name, their own identity. Varys had the power to make anyone fall under her spell, and once they were never the same again. She wasn't like any other alien that had been encountered before. Her long, shimmering hair cascaded down her back in waves, and her smooth, radiant skin was a strange combination of gold and pale violet. Her eyes glowed softly like twin moons on a midnight sky. Every movement she made was graceful, seductive, as if she were made from the very essence of beauty itself. But there was more to Varys than just her captivating appearance. Beneath her stunning exterior was a deadly power, a power that no one had ever escaped from. Her kind was known for their unique ability to take what they wanted from others, draining their energy, their life force, through an ancient and dangerous gift to those she allowed close. She gave a taste of paradise, but for most the experience was the last they would ever know. Varys had lived for centuries, always using her charm and her lethal gifts to take what she needed. For years, she had drained the lives of countless lovers and admirers, each one thinking they were the special one, the one who could change her heart. Yet they were all the same to her, a means to an end. Every relationship was temporary, just a fleeting moment of satisfaction, before she discarded them, moving on to the next victim. It was a cold existence, one that Varys had long grown tired of, but it wasn't as though she had a choice. Her powers were a part of her, and she could never escape them. The more she used her abilities, the more detached she became from any real connection. After all, what was love to someone who could only take and never truly give? Varys had long stopped believing that anyone could break through her walls. She had tried once long ago. She had allowed herself to get close to someone, a man from a distant world, who had somehow managed to resist her powers for a while. He was different, not easily swayed by her beauty or her charm, but in the end he had still succumbed just like the others. That experience had hurt more than she had expected. It made her realize something that she had never wanted to admit. No matter how powerful she was, no matter how beautiful she was, still alone her powers were a curse, and every time she killed or drained another lover, she became more distant from the person she once hoped to be. Now her latest conquest was another in a long line of many, another man who would fall under her spell and eventually fade into the nothingness of her past. This time, however, something was different. This one was human, and that made him an interesting prize. His name was Ronan. Ronan was not a part of the intergalactic circles where the wealthy and powerful gathered. He was a simple man from Earth, an explorer who had found himself lost in the vastness of space. His ship had crashed on Cindera, and by some strange twist of fate he had been chosen as Varys' next target. But Ronan wasn't like the others. When he arrived, he had no idea who Varys was or what she was capable of. He wasn't impressed by her beauty, nor was he frightened by the dangerous reputation she held. He had a mission, a reason for being on this planet, and he wasn't about to let anything distract him, no matter how tempting it seemed. Varys watched him carefully as he was brought to her palace, the place where she had claimed many before him. He stood tall, his posture confident, his eyes sharp and full of determination. He wasn't like the others who were weak, eager to please her, desperate to survive in her presence. Ronan didn't seem to care for her charms. In fact, he didn't even flinch when their eyes met for the first time. This intrigued Varys more than she cared to admit. She had known that Earthlings were different from other species, but she had never encountered one quite like Ronan. His gaze was steady and unshaken, his thoughts hidden behind a wall that even her powers couldn't seem to pierce. Varys had long been used to controlling her lovers with ease, but Ronan was not so easily manipulated. In her experience, men often fell in love with her, or at least became obsessed, but Ronan, even with all her beauty, did not show any sign of being taken by her. Instead, he studied her with a quiet intensity, as if he were the one in control for the first time in a long while. Varys felt something she had never expected, curiosity. She wasn't sure what it was about him, but she was certain that Ronan would not be like the others, whether it was his calm demeanor or the fire in his eyes. Something about him made Varys wonder if perhaps This time things might be different. Romans' crash landing on Sinindara had been chaotic, a violent tumble through the atmosphere that left his ship in ruins. He had no memory of how the ship's systems had failed or how he'd managed to survive the fiery descent. All he knew was that he was on a strange, alien world, one far from the Earth he knew when he first opened his eyes to the strange landscape of Sindara. It was nothing like he had imagined. The sky was a deep, an early shade of purple, and the land stretched out with strange towering trees and shimmering lakes. The air was thick with unfamiliar scents, and every breeze felt like it carried whispers from another world. His ship was totaled. Barely a pile of metal and broken wires. He had no choice but to move on. Ronan wasn't the kind of man to give up easily. He'd faced countless dangers on his travels, and this was just another challenge to overcome. He gathered what little supplies he could find and set off in search of shelter. But what he didn't know was that he wasn't alone. The people of Sindara were not the welcoming kind. Their planet had a long history of mysterious, dangerous creatures, and Varys was one of the most feared. But Ronan didn't know that yet. He wasn't aware that he was about to be caught in a web of intrigue and danger, one spun by the beautiful and deadly creature who ruled the planet. Hours passed as he navigated through dense forests, eventually finding a road that led to what appeared to be a grand palace. He had no idea where it had come from, but it loomed ahead, magnificent and imposing, like something straight out of a dream or a nightmare. As he walked closer, he felt an unsettling pull, a sensation deep in his chest that he couldn't explain. There was something about this place, something not quite right, but he was too weary to turn back. As Ronan entered the gates of the palace, he was met by guards, strange beings whose eyes gleamed with an unnatural light. They weren't hostile, but there was a certain coldness in their presence that made Ronan's instincts flare. Still, he wasn't afraid. His past had taught him to face danger head-on, and he had learned long ago to trust his gut. He kept his eyes open, and his movements steady, careful not to show weakness. He was led through a series of corridors, each one more luxurious than the last. The walls shimmered with what seemed to be golden veins of light, and the floors were made of smooth black stone that reflected his footsteps. The silence of the place was oppressive, and Ronan couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched by unseen eyes, but he kept moving forward, determined to find out what was going on. At last, he was brought before her. Varys sat on a throne of shimmering silver, her form draped in flowing robes of soft violet. She looked like a goddess, an alien beauty beyond compare. Her long dark hair cascaded down her back, and her eyes glowed with a light that seemed to pierce straight through him. Her gaze locked onto his, and for a moment the world around them faded into nothingness. Ronan's first instinct was to speak, to ask where he was and why he had been brought here, but the words stuck in his throat. There was something hypnotic about her presence, something that made him feel as though he had no control over his own body, but he fought it. He wasn't the kind of man to fall under anyone's control, not even a being like her. "Welcome, Earthling," Varys said, her voice soft yet powerful. "I've been waiting for you." Ronan raised an eyebrow, keeping his posture firm. "Waiting for me? You've got the wrong person. I'm not here for any kind of meeting." Varys' lips curved into a smile, and her eyes sparkled with amusement. "Oh, I think you are. You see, you've been chosen." "Chosen for what?" Ronan asked, crossing his arms. "I'm not interested in being anyone's chosen one. I just need to fix my ship and leave." Varys chuckled softly, her laugh like the sound of distant chimes. "You misunderstand, Earthling. You're not here because of your ship. You're here because you're special." Ronan frowned, confused. "Special? I don't know what you mean. I just want to leave this place." Her gaze softened, and she stood gliding toward him like a shadow. "You have no idea what you've stumbled into, do you? You've landed on a planet where few humans know. Few beings ever come, and those who do are never the same after they meet me." Ronan's heart quickened, and he took a step back, instinctively reaching for the small weapon at his side. "What do you mean?" Varys' eyes flickered with something Ronan couldn't quite place. "I am not like others. I have lived for centuries, and in all that time I have tasted many beings, but none like you. You are different, and I want to know why." Roman's fingers tightened around his weapon, but he didn't draw it. He could feel the tension building in the room, the sense that this was just the beginning of something much larger then he could understand I'm not interested. In whatever game you're playing, Ronan said, his voice steady, but firm. Oh, but. You will be Varys, replied, her smile widening. You see, I've never met anyone like you, and for the first time in a long while, I'm intrigued you may not know it yet, Earthling, but you've just become part of my world, and I don't let go of what I claim so easily. Ronan stared at her, his mind racing. He didn't know what he had gotten himself into, but he knew one thing for certain: he was not going to let her control them, not now, not ever. The moment Ronan stepped into Varys' world, he knew there was something different about her. She was not like any woman he had ever met. Her presence filled the room, her gaze sharp and intense, as though she could see right through him. It was as if the air itself bent to her will, but Ronan wasn't easily intimidated. He had faced many dangers in his life, and this strange alien beauty was no different. He wasn't going to let her control him. Varys studied him closely, her eyes narrowing with curiosity. It wasn't often that she encountered someone who didn't fall under her influence. The moment they saw her, most beings couldn't resist her charm, the pull of her presence, but Ronan was different. He didn't seem fazed by her. In fact, he appeared completely unaffected. His eyes remained steady, his posture firm, like a man who had nothing to fear. This intrigued her even more. For centuries, Varys had been able to bend others to her, while seducing them with a touch, a smile, or a glance. Her beauty was unmatched, and her power over others was undeniable. She had never met a man who resisted her, not even for a moment. But Ronan was something else entirely. She could feel the strength in him, a calm determination that was not easily shaken, and this only made her more fascinated. So you're not going to beg for mercy? Varys asked, her voice soft, yet laced with amusement. She was used to hearing pleas from those who found themselves in her presence, but Ronan's silence was different. It wasn't fear that held him back, it was something else. Ronan looked at her for a long moment, then shook his head. I don't beg, and I don't play games. Varys tilted her head, her lips curling into a slight smile. Games? This is no game, Earthling. This is real. She stepped closer to him, moving gracefully across the floor, her steps almost hypnotic. You are here for a reason. You may not understand it yet, but you will. Ronan didn't flinch. He stood his ground, his mind racing. What was she? What was this place? He had no answers. But he wasn't about to let her toy with him. I don't care about your reasons. I just want to get back to my ship and leave. You think you can just leave? She asked, raising an eyebrow. You've stepped into a world far beyond your own, Earthling, and here you do not make the rules. I make my own rules, Ronan replied calmly, and I'm not going to be controlled by anyone. For a moment, Varys was silent. There was something about Ronan's confidence, his strength, that challenged her. He wasn't like the others. He didn't want her power, her beauty, or her affection. He didn't care about any of the things she had used to get what she wanted for so long, and that in itself was a rare thing. Varys found herself wanting to know more about him. You speak of control, she said slowly, studying him. But what is control? Is it power, or is it something else? I have had power over so many, but none have made me question it the way you have. Ronan frowned, unsure of what she meant, but something in her tone made him pause. I don't care about your power. I don't care about you or your games. I just need to fix my ship and get back to Earth. Varys' eyes darkened for a moment, as though she was weighing something heavy in her mind. Then, with a soft sigh, she stepped back, her expression softening just a fraction. You are different, Ronan, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. I can feel it, and that makes you more interesting than all the others. Ronan stiffened. What do you mean by that? What are you trying to say? Varys' smile was almost wistful. I have lived for so long taking what I wanted, playing with those who came into my reach. But I have never felt like this before, not with anyone. Ronan was taken aback. There was something in her words, something raw and honest, that made him hesitate. He didn't trust her. He couldn't. But for the first time, he saw a flicker of something different in her eyes. It wasn't just a predator's gaze. It was confusion, maybe even loneliness. I'm not like the others you've taken, Ron, and said firmly, his eyes locking with hers. And I'm not going to be. Varys blinked, clearly surprised by his words. It wasn't what she expected. She had always been in control. No one had ever spoken to her this way before. Ronan wasn't afraid. He wasn't trying to impress her, and he certainly wasn't in awe of her beauty. And for the first time, Varys wasn't sure how to react. I don't want to be a part of whatever this is. Ron continued, taking a step back. I just want to fix my ship and leave this planet behind. I'm not interested in anything you have to offer. Varys stood still, her gaze following him. As he turned to leave, there was a moment of silence between them, and for the first time in centuries, Varys felt something strange stirring inside her. Something she didn't understand. Was it frustration? Was it desire? Or was it something else entirely? As Ronan walked away, he couldn't shake the feeling that he had just stepped into a much bigger situation than he had ever imagined. He didn't know why he was so certain, but he knew one thing: Varys wasn't like the others, and that could either be the biggest danger of all or his greatest chance for survival. The next few days on Cinderella passed in a blur for Ronan. He spent most of his time trying to repair his ship, but the damage was far worse than he had first thought. The systems were completely fried, and without proper tools or parts, there was little he could do. He had no choice but to rely on the resources of this strange planet, which made him uneasy. Varys had told him that she would help him, but Ronan wasn't sure if that was a blessing or a curse. Every time he thought about her, he couldn't shake the feeling that she was playing some kind of game, one that he didn't fully understand, and yet there was something else about her that kept drawing him in, something that made him hesitate before turning away. As the days went by, Varys visited him in the palace. She didn't come often, but when she did, she seemed to always know just what to say to keep his attention. She spoke of strange things, of worlds beyond his imagination, of powers he couldn't even begin to comprehend. Her stories were as captivating as they were confusing, and though he didn't want to admit it, Ronan found himself listening, even asking questions. Her presence was like a puzzle he couldn't quite solve, and that intrigued him more than he cared to admit. On the fourth day, she appeared before him again. This time she didn't wear her usual flowing robes. Instead, she wore something simpler, a kind of tunic that allowed her to move freely. She seemed almost normal, but Ronan knew better than to think of her as anything less than what she truly was, a being of immense power. You're still trying to fix your ship, Varys said, her voice calm but with a hint of amusement. Ronan glanced up from the broken wires in his hands. What else am I supposed to do? It's not like I can just leave on foot. True, she said, her eyes glinting with something he couldn't quite read. But there are easier ways to fix it. You don't have to do it all yourself. You No, I'm not asking for your help, Ronan replied, his voice steady. I didn't come here to rely on you. Varys tilted her head, studying him with that same unnerving gaze. You think you have a choice? This planet, it doesn't work the way you're used to. Everything here is different, Ronan. Your ship, your planet, your rules, they don't matter here. Ronan gritted his teeth. I don't care what you say. I'm getting out of here on my own terms. For a long moment, Varys was silent, watching him closely. Then, without warning, she took a step closer to him, her presence almost overwhelming. You're stubborn, she said, her voice soft but firm. I admire that. It's rare to meet someone who doesn't give in so easily. Ronan didn't respond. He kept his focus on the ship's broken systems, his mind racing. He had no idea what Varys was thinking or what game she was playing. But he wasn't about to let her manipulate him. He needed to leave, and that was all that mattered. Varys, sensing his determination, backed off slightly, though she didn't turn away. You still think you can do this alone, don't you? She said quietly. You think that if you just work hard enough, you'll find a way to fix your ship and leave this place behind. But what if it's not that simple? What if you're trapped here and the only way out is with my help? I don't need your help, Ronan said again, this time with more certainty. I'll find a way. I always do. Varys studied him for a moment, her expression unreadable. Then, unexpectedly, she smiled. It wasn't a smile of triumph or mockery. It was something softer, almost thoughtful. You are different, Ronan. I see that now. Most beings would have already given up or begged for my help by now, but you keep fighting. Ronan looked at her, his eyes narrowing slightly. And what's your point? My point, she said, her voice now gentle, is that you're not like the others. You may not see it yet, but something about you, it makes you stand out to me, and I don't know why, but I find that intriguing. Ronan was taken aback by her words for a moment. He didn't know how to respond. What was she saying? Was this some kind of trick, or was she actually being honest? You don't have to trust me, Varys continued, her tone a little softer now, but I want you To know that I'm not like the others you've met. I don't just take what I want and leave. I don't know what it is. About you, but I feel something different. Ronan didn't know what to make of her confession. He had spent his life dealing with dangers and challenges, and he had learned never to trust anyone too easily. But something in Very's eyes made him pause. She wasn't threatening him, at least not directly. She was being honest. He wasn't sure. Why do you care? Ronan asked, his voice low. What do you want? From me. Varys looked away, her gaze flickering for a moment before she spoke. Again, I don't know yet, she said quietly, but maybe, just maybe, we can help each other. Ronan didn't reply right away. He wasn't sure if he could trust her, but for the first time he started to wonder if there was more to her than he had originally thought. She wasn't just a cold, distant ruler of this strange planet. There was something deeper, something human about her, a side of her that she had never shown anyone before. In that moment, Ronan realized something important. This wasn't just a fight for survival anymore. This was about understanding what kind of person Varys really was, and whether or not they could both find a way out of this place together. But the more he thought about it, the more uncertain he became. He had never been one to trust anyone easily, and yet in a place as strange and dangerous as this, it was hard to ignore the strange bond that was beginning to form between them. Days passed, and the tension between Ronan and Varys seemed to shift. What had once been a quiet standoff between two strong-willed individuals was slowly changing into something else. It was subtle, almost imperceptible, but Ronan couldn't deny it. Every time Varys visited, he found himself listening more closely to her words, planting seeds of curiosity that he couldn't shake despite his reservations. Ronan knew he needed information. He couldn't fix his ship on his own, and staying on Cinderella forever was not an option. The sooner he left, the better, but Varys seemed to be the only one who could provide him with the resources he needed. She had power more than he could ever understand, and if there was any chance of him getting back to Earth, he would have to work with her, at least for now. Varys, on the other hand, seemed to be testing something in herself. She wasn't used to people refusing her help, and Ronan's stubbornness puzzled her, but it also intrigued her. He didn't see her as a goddess to be worshipped or a ruler to be feared. He saw her as just another person. And that was something she had never encountered. She didn't know why, but there was a part of her that liked it. On the sixth day of their uneasy partnership, Varys appeared before him again, this time carrying a strange device in her hands. Roman looked up from the wreckage of his ship, his expression unreadable. What is it? He asked, eyeing the device suspiciously. It's a tool, Varys replied, her voice cool. A tool that can help you fix your ship. Ronan raised an eyebrow. You didn't bring that just to help me, did you? There's always a catch with you. Varys chuckled softly, the sound almost melodic. You're right to be cautious, but this is not a trick, Earthling. I know how important your ship is to you, and I'm offering this because, well, because I want to see if we can help each other. Ronan didn't trust her, but he also couldn't ignore the fact that his ship wasn't going to fix itself. He needed help. He stood up from the ship's wreckage, wiped his hands on his pants, and walked toward her. Fine, he said, his voice still guarded, but if this is some kind of test, I'm not interested. Varys handed him the device. It was sleek and metallic, unlike anything Ronan had seen before. There were no buttons, no obvious controls, just a smooth surface with strange symbols etched into it. What does it do? Ronan asked, inspecting the device closely. It will help you bypass the damage to your ship's core, Varys explained. I have the knowledge of many technologies, and this is one of the most powerful tools I have. It's designed to bridge the gap between broken systems and make them functional again. Think of it as a temporary solution. Ronan studied her for a long moment. He didn't believe for a second that she was doing this purely out of kindness, but at this point he didn't have much of a choice. All right, he said, taking the device from her hands. Let's see if it works. As he began to work on his ship, Varys watched him with a mixture of curiosity and something else, something Ronan couldn't quite place. She was silent, allowing him to focus on the task, but he could feel her eyes on him, sharp and calculating. The device worked better than Ronan had expected. He could feel the ship's systems starting to respond as he connected the device to its core. The engines flickered to life for the first time since the crash, and a small sense of hope rose within him. Maybe, just maybe, he could get off this planet as the Device finished its task. Ronan stood back examining the ship systems. It's working, he said, his voice low with surprise. I didn't think it would. I told you it would. Varys replied, her voice soft, but with an edge of pride. I don't offer help lightly, but I thought you deserved a chance. Ronan looked at her, his expression unreadable. Why? Varys didn't answer right away. She seemed to consider her words carefully. Finally, she spoke. Because you're different from the others. I've encountered you don't bow down to me, and you don't try to manipulate me. I find that refreshing. Ronan frowned. And what do you want in return? Varys' smile was faint but genuine. I don't want anything, Ronan, not yet, at least for a moment. They simply stood there, an unspoken understanding passing between them. Ronan wasn't sure what to make of her words. He still didn't fully trust her, but there was something about her honesty, if it could even be called honesty, that made him hesitate. He wasn't used to feeling like this in all his years of traveling. He had never been in a situation where he had to rely on someone else. It was always him against the world, but this time it felt different. Something about Varys was pulling him in, and he didn't know if it was her power, her mystery, or something else entirely. Thank you, he said, still cautious, but acknowledging the help she had given. I'll take it from here. Varys nodded, her eyes still fixed on him. You're welcome, but remember, Ronan, not everything is as simple as it seems. You've stepped into a world far beyond your own, and there's more to this planet than meets the eye. Be careful. I'll keep that in mind, Ronan replied, his voice firm. But I'm not afraid of whatever's out there. Varys' smile returned, though it was tinged with something darker. Well, see about that. With that, she turned and walked away, leaving Ronan alone with his ship. He watched her go, unsure of what to make of their interaction. There was a part of him that still didn't trust her, but another part of him couldn't shake the feeling that she might be the key to everything he needed. As the engines hummed to life, Ronan knew that he had to keep moving forward. He was closer to fixing his ship than he had been before. But now he also had something else to consider. Varys. Her motives were unclear. But one thing was certain, this fragile alliance between them was far from over. The days after Varys' unexpected help felt different. Ronan worked tirelessly on his ship using the device she had given him. His progress was steady, and every passing day brought him closer to his goal, getting off Cinderella. But even as the ship's system slowly came back to life, Ronan couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. Varys' visits had become less frequent, but when she did appear, she always brought with her a strange sense of calm and unease at the same time. Ronan didn't fully trust her, but he had to admit